Good Tuesday morning at 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for getting your day started with us. And good morning to Miller.
Well, good morning.
Here to tell us all about the weather and what's going to happen next. I mean, it's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster lately.
Yeah, a little bit of a roller coaster. It's a beautiful weekend. Now we're into a bit of a speed bump. Conditions, not so good. And then we get back into this weekend and things are looking okay again. As we take a look down from the rims here into Billings, courtesy of the Stockman Bank weather cam, we saw some flurries a little earlier. That is cleared out for the most part here in Billings. Still a chance we could still see some of that this morning. But as we go along this afternoon, we're going to warm up enough to where it could transition to rain if that moisture does hold on. 31 right now at the airport, feels like 26. Winds out of the south at about 5 miles an hour. Go inside the numbers. Yesterday our high got up to about 52, 6 degrees above average. Our low got down to 28, so a little bit above average there. Windy yesterday, well, not so much. Breezy at times with gust up to near 20. Could see that again today. If you're in the southeastern corner of the state, we could see some gust up to about 30 to 35 miles an hour. You notice we haven't had any measurable precipitation yet for March. That is changing. We'll see some of those numbers go up because of the rain and snow this morning and the possibility of seeing some later on this afternoon. Around the horn right now, White Sulphur Springs at 23 with some flurries, as well as Harleton where you're sitting at about 28. Colstrip with some snow and 31. Aberdeen Hill 28, and we're seeing some snow showers there as well. Now we could still see some rain as we go along today, but otherwise we're just going to see the clouds starting to break and maybe some breaks for some sunshine today with highs mainly in the 40s, so we're a little cooler than yesterday. Our high today here in Billings up to about 49. This is how we're going to get there. Starting off in the 30s, we'll be in the 40s by lunchtime. We'll hold on to the mid to upper 40s later this afternoon. Hopefully the sunshine will come out and warm us up just a bit on this Organize Your Office Day. Holy cow.
Yeah, she's moving pretty fast.
Is that you?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't
If
know.
you organize your home office, I think it helps your workflow a lot better. You can find things quicker, and get creative, have a little fun, buy nice little things, nice little folders to organize some of your papers and color code everything. And
my wife has bought these like color coded bins.
Okay.
And she's got them all up around the house too, and that's how she does it. And we got bookcases and things like that too. Right. So we homeschool, so we got books.
That's important.
And homework everywhere. So she does a great job keeping things nice and tidy. I could never do it. Well, I look at something going, do I really need that? Nope, trash.
Yeah, see, that's good though. That's good. You don't hold on to things. I think the problem comes up when you start to hold on to things and you're like, I'm going to need this later, and then it's sitting there for months. And
something that's been sitting there for 2 months, and I finally take it and I throw it away, and that's the day the wife comes in and goes, where's that thing at? Oh
yeah, where'd that receipt go?
Oops.
Like, oh gosh.
I just blame it on the cats. They ate it.
Well, just put it in the receipt folder, and then you're good. You're covered.
Be a good idea.
All right, Miller. Well, you go get to cleaning your.
I'm going to go organize right now.
I'm going to get to the
fix over here?
We begin in Wyoming this morning, where the mask mandate has been lifted and businesses will soon be allowed to operate restriction-free. All of this takes effect 1 week from today. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon made the change, citing the state's decline in active COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations, as well as their success getting residents vaccinated. Face coverings will still be required in schools. The House will continue to review revisions to the COVID relief bill today. House leaders say there is a lot to look at and a vote is more likely tomorrow. The Senate passed the legislation with a party line vote over the weekend. Changes to the bill required it to go back to the House. The White House says stimulus checks could go out by the end of the month once the bill is approved and signed. The CDC has issued new guidance for Americans who have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. They can now gather with other vaccinated people without having to wear masks or practice social distancing. They can also visit unvaccinated people who aren't at risk for developing severe disease. And the CDC says anyone with both shots can skip quarantines and testing if they're exposed to someone who has COVID-19, as long as they are asymptomatic. Later this week will mark 1 year since COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. Today, President Joe Biden is more than 3/4 of the way to meeting his goal of seeing 100 million COVID-19 shots in his first 100 days in office. CBS's Natalie Brand looks back at how the federal government responded to the pandemic this past year and the fight ahead.
The race to recovery has turned to vaccinations.
We're now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May.
So far, more than 90 million shots have reached more than 17% of the U.S. population. From vaccines to testing to reopening plans, President Biden is pushing a national response strategy in contrast to the Trump administration's state-driven approach.
A lot of control happens at the state and local level, and that's appropriate because it allows jurisdictions to tailor what's happening, the policies to their communities. The challenge is that when every single state is having to make the same set of decisions, it makes sense to take that up a level and provide federal guidance and leadership.
Dr. Caitlin Rivers, an epidemiologist at Johns Hopkins, helped work on reopening guidance last spring and says a key lesson learned is the critical importance of clear public health messaging.
And we just never got that really crisp, continuous messaging that could help people to navigate this really difficult year.
While President Trump received criticism for mixed messaging as well as downplaying the threat of the virus, his administration earned praise for helping fast-track the development of COVID-19 vaccines.
It's called Operation Warp Speed. That means big and it means fast.
The FDA has given emergency use authorization to vaccines from Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. While the rollout has been rocky, FEMA has now helped launch mass vaccination sites with an emphasis on reaching vulnerable populations and underserved communities. The public health crisis also triggered an economic crisis, decimating businesses and leaving millions out of work, demanding its own federal response. Last March, President Trump signed the $2.2 trillion CARES Act, the largest of 5 emergency bills Congress passed in 2020. It included stimulus checks, expanded unemployment benefits, and the Paycheck Protection Program to help struggling businesses. Congress is now poised to send President Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief plan to his desk. President Biden paused with the nation last month to mark more than 500,000 lives lost to the virus, with Americans still anxious about a key question.
What does the new normal look like?
I think masks will continue to be a staple in households. I think that we will all be a little bit more mindful to keep our distance from others, but we will be able to reincorporate a lot of things that are important to us.
Health experts also stress the importance of laying the groundwork now for the best response to future crises. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Yesterday, the administration announced plans to invest $250 million in an effort to encourage COVID-19 safety and vaccination among underserved populations. Continuing our coverage, a Sunday shooting in the Billings Heights is now being investigated as a homicide. The man shot at the Whitetail Run apartments on Sioux Lane died from his injuries. His name has not been released. Police say they have a person of interest in the case, but so far no arrests have been made. The motive for the crime remains unknown. Now we go to Reigate, where a propane explosion that leveled a home, resulting in the deaths of 2 community members, is prompting action from local officials. Curtis Ronning and Christine DeBuff passed away in last week's blast. 2 neighbors heard the explosion and went in to save Ronning and DeBuff, but were too late. The neighbors were injured in the rescue attempt, but are okay. As the community mourns the loss of Curtis and Christine, the Golden Valley Undersheriff is working to make sure something like this never happens again. He's filling out a grant to buy gas detectors for county residents.
Some people just can't afford it. Those detectors are expensive. I think they're $60 or better, and people have to buy groceries, and they're gonna buy groceries rather than, put money towards that, even though it is vitally important.
Ronning and DeBuff own the Reigate Bar and Cafe. Under Sheriff Olson says business is a mainstay in the community and residents want to reopen it. A Western Montana mother is behind bars for driving drunk, leading to a crash that killed her son. 34-year-old Megan Beard is facing a charge of vehicular homicide while under the influence. Last month, Beard was driving south on Highway 93 between Missoula and Lolo when she lost control, crossed the center line, and collided with 2 oncoming vehicles. Beard was ejected and her 10-year-old son died from injuries sustained in the crash. Beard's blood alcohol concentration was 3 times the legal limit. Officers on scene found 8 empty bottles and 5 full bottles of baking extract in her car. Her parents told authorities she uses them to get drunk. A fourth Montanan is now accused of participating in the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Court documents show Isaac Sturgeon of Dillon was seen on an officer's body camera helping pick up a barricade before shoving it through a group of officers. Sturgeon flew to Kenya on January 24th and was just deported back to the United States. He was arrested at the airport in New York over the weekend. Sturgeon was in Morocco in March of last year at the start of the pandemic and got help getting back to Montana from Senator Steve Daines. Also making headlines this morning, the trial of a former Minneapolis police officer accused in the death of George Floyd may be on hold for days or even weeks. The judge is waiting on a decision from another court on adding a separate charge. It delayed jury selection yesterday, but that's now expected to start later today. Opening arguments are scheduled to start on March 29th. And before we take a break, not a lot of people have their career figured out at the age of 14. But Q2's Scott Breen is introducing us to one young man already shaping his dream job.
If you make it to this week's State B basketball tournament and happen to glance down media row, you'll see a lot of seasoned veterans, and one on his way, fully equipped with a bag of Cheetos and a bottle of water.
And he lays it up and in, 11-point game. So my name's MCNIVEN. I go to Huntley Project, and me and my dad, about 2 years ago when I was in 6th grade, we did the end of the football season.
And that led to high school volleyball and basketball. And keep in mind, Anderson's not even in high school. He's only 14 and handled his first play-by-play just a couple years ago at age 12.
Spin move, puts it up off the glass, and it's good. My very first broadcast was, I think it was versus Joliet, and it was a basketball game. And I asked my dad, are you ever going to let me do this? He said, yeah, sure, why not? So I took over, and I've been doing it for a good year and a half now. 7:30 remaining.
A good year and a half. He's not even old enough to drive, needs a ride to ball games, yet has the best seat in the house. Anderson trots in on game day, sets up his own radio equipment right here, where he also has his radio station's call letters promptly marked. Then it's game on.
Fox puts it up off the glass, puts it in for 2 points.
Anderson is painting a picture for those who can't be here. And as fate has it, that also includes his dad this week on vacation. So he's recruited his uncle.
Me and Chad have to do a state tournament all by ourselves now. Bouchard drives in, puts it up, and it's good. He leads by 2.
This Friday night semifinal between Huntley Project and Lodgegrass was more like a track meet. Not easy for seasoned sportscasters, let alone an 8th grader, to convey all the action.
It was just so much of a fast-pacing game that they make a point and they make a point. It's kind of hard to get the whole game in, like, I guess a couple of sentences as they're just running back and forth.
It is hard, but he's learning the more you do it, the more you nail it.
Drives down the lane, puts it up. That one's no good as well. And rebound will go to number 11. He puts it up off the glass and he puts it in.
If it seems like all fun and games, well, it is. Anderson says it's a big privilege to miss a little school, but the 14-year-old still has to find time to balance homework and sleep.
It's a busy schedule, I'll tell you that.
Here's the thing, it's about to get busier. Anderson also plays basketball. So what happens to sportscasting when he makes Huntley Project's high school team?
What I think I'll do is we do girls and boys, so I'll probably broadcast the girls game and then go play my game when I get into high school, and then it'll be fun. There's strong good sportsmanship out there like they always do at the end of the game.
Scott Breen, MTN Sports.
And Anderson will be calling Huntley Project's opening state tournament game tomorrow night at 7:30 against Fairfield. You can listen on FM radio station 101.1 or on the Yellowstone County News website.